Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 26 of the Religious Education Initiative for St. George Greek Orthodox Church. We're on day one here, reading from Exodus chapter 32. We'll read the entire chapter. Last time we read excerpts from the several chapters previous about Moses while he was up on Mount Sinai in the cloud, speaking with God and hearing from him the necessary things that the people needed to do to build, to prepare the tabernacle, to build for inside, and how to worship God correctly. All of this reflects the worship of God in heaven and points towards the many things that we now see fulfilled in the new covenant. Now, today, we're going to see what the people of Israel were doing down at the base of the mountain while Moses was up on the mountain, and what happens when Moses comes down. So, from the beginning of chapter 32. When the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, the people gathered around Aaron, and they said to him, "Come, make gods for us, who shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him." Aaron said to them, "Take off the gold rings that are on the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me." So all the people took off the gold rings from their ears and brought them to Aaron. He took the gold from them, formed it in a mold, and cast the image of a calf. And they said, "These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt." When Aaron saw this, he built an altar before it. And Aaron made proclamation and said, "Tomorrow shall be a festival to the Lord." They rose early the next day and offered burnt offerings and brought sacrifices of well-being. And the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to revel. The Lord said to Moses, "Go down at once. Your people whom you brought up out of the land of Egypt have acted perversely. They have been quick to turn aside from the way that I commanded them. They have cast for themselves an image of a calf and have worshipped it and sacrificed to it and said, 'These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt.' The Lord said to Moses, 'I have seen this people, how stiff-necked they are. Now let me alone, so that my wrath may burn hot against them, and I may consume them. And of you I will make a great nation.' But Moses implored the Lord his God, and said, 'O Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, whom you brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians say, it was with evil intent that he brought them out, to kill them in the mountains, and to consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce wrath, change your mind, and do not bring disaster on your people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants, how you swore to them by your own self, saying to them, 'I will multiply your descendants like the stars of heaven, and all this land that I have promised I will give to your descendants, and they shall inherit it forever.' And the Lord changed his mind about the disaster he planned to bring on his people. Then Moses turned and went down from the mountain, carrying the 2 tablets of the covenant in his hands, tablets that were written on both sides, written on the front and on the back. The tablets were the work of God, and the writing was the writing of God engraved upon the tablets. When Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said to Moses, 'There is a noise of war in the camp.' But Moses said, 'It is not the sound made by victors, or the sound made by losers. It is the sound of revelers that I hear, of partiers.' As soon as he came near the camp and saw the calf and the dancing, Moses' anger burned hot, and he threw the tablets from his hands and broke them at the foot of the mountain. He took the calf that they had made, burned it with fire, ground it to powder, scattered it on the water, and made the Israelites drink it. Moses said to Aaron, 'What did this people do to you, that you have brought so great a sin upon them?' And Aaron said, 'Do not let the anger of my Lord burn hot. You know the people, that they are bent on evil. They said to me, "Make us gods who shall go up before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him." So I said to them, "Whoever has gold, take it off." So they gave it to me, and I threw it in the fire, and out came this calf." When Moses saw that the people were running wild, for Aaron had let them run wild, to the derision of their enemies, then Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, "Who is on the Lord's side? Come to me." And all the sons of Levi gathered around him. He said to them, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, put your sword on your side, each of you. Go back and forth from gate to gate throughout the camp, and each of you kill your brother, your friend, and your neighbor." The sons of Levi did as Moses commanded, and about 3,000 of the people fell on that day. Moses said, "Today you have ordained yourselves for the service of the Lord, each one at the cost of a son or a brother, and so have brought a blessing on yourselves this day." On the next day Moses said to the people, "You have sinned a great sin. But now I will go up to the Lord. Perhaps I can make atonement for your sin." So Moses returned to the Lord and said, "Alas, this people has sinned a great sin. They have made for themselves gods of gold. But now, if you will only forgive their sin, but if not, blot me out of the book that you have written." But the Lord said to Moses, "Whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book. But now go, lead the people to the place about which I have spoken to you. See, my angel shall go in front of you. Nevertheless, when the day comes for punishment, I will punish them for their sin." Then the Lord sent a plague on the people, because they made the calf, the one that Aaron made. I find this reading heartbreaking. Everything that God had given to the people, everything he had done for them, everything that he had showed to them, everything he had commanded them, everything that they had agreed to. I'd like to say it looked like things were going so well, but we've actually seen that at every point the people have messed up. They've made a wrong decision. And really, what happens in this passage is the result, the direct result of decisions that they made earlier. Remember, when they got to the foot of the mountain, back several chapters ago, which we read back in January, God said to them that he wanted them to be his priestly people. They weren't allowed to touch the mountain or go up it at first. He told them to wash themselves, to cleanse themselves, to fast, and to prepare. And on the third day, he came down, he spoke to them, he gave them the 10 Commandments. And the intent was, what he said was, when the trumpet sounds a long tone, then the people can come up. So the idea was that they would all go up the mountain together with Moses, that they would all encounter God. This has been the point from the beginning. He wants all of them to be his priests. He wants all of them to be his representatives to the entire world. But their response then was, we don't want that. We're scared of God. We want Moses to be the go-between. We want Moses to stand between us and God and tell us what God says. And even though they've agreed to every other piece of the covenant, even though they've agreed and said that they want to serve God, when Moses is gone for 40 days and they don't know what happened to him, that's what they say, then they decide that they need to make their own intermediary. It's a point that I've only learned recently, but it bears repeating. When they made the golden calf, their idea was not that they were worshiping now some other god besides Yahweh. They were trying to use the golden calf to worship Yahweh. Now, calves, bulls, these were a common way to worship, especially for some reason, the god of the sky. So Baal would be worshipped in this way. I believe Zeus is worshipped this way. Your sky gods tend to be worshipped with bulls, with cattle. But that's not how you worship the Most High God. You don't make an image. He had just told them, you shall not make any graven image. And then they go and do it. So they are trying to say that they're worshiping the one true God. But in fact, they're trying to make the one true God into just another common demon god of the nations. So it's not just idolatry, it's blasphemy. It's a false statement and a false action about the one true God. And furthermore, the idolatry of the nations, the use of these images. The intent of this was to constrain God, to make him live in the image that you made for him, or to constrain a God, and to control him, to make him give you what you wanted. That was all connected to these festivals. And the festivals, they're not really something we can talk about in detail in a family-friendly setting. You can think more an orgy than just a party. There's a lot of excess, a lot of sin. So everything that the people are doing is showing that they've said with their lips that they will serve God, that they will obey him, but by their actions they're showing that they're not. It's hard to see them do this. It's hard to see the consequences that come to them. It's difficult, it's painful to see the Levites who are faithful, who say and choose to be on the side of the Lord, and what they're commanded to do then is go and bring judgment, bring punishment, bring death to the people who have betrayed their covenant with God. Because remember, blood was splashed on them as it was splashed on God. The covenant was sealed. They had agreed that on pain of death they would serve the Lord. And then they go and do this. It's heartbreaking to see this. What we need to take away from this: God can't be controlled. God cannot be mocked. We can't play games with God. If he calls us to serve him, if he tells us, and he always does tell us, what he expects from us, how we need to live, we need to be faithful to this. We cannot just think, God's far away. He doesn't really care what we do. It's okay for me to do what I want to do. If we are called to serve God, if we carry his name, if we are called by his name, then we must follow him. And again, this is a very sad passage, a very sober and sobering passage, because it reminds us how serious a matter it is to live and to be called to follow the Lord. So, not a happy ending for this one, at least not yet. But God decides to be merciful. He holds off on judgment, and as it ends up, the final judgment that comes is that all of these people, they grow old in the wilderness. They don't get to enter into the promised land. But even then, that's only after a few more mistakes that they make. So God is still merciful. With that, we'll end, and I'll see you all on day 2 for the Wednesday reading. God bless you.